Okay, hello, my name is Austin Pendergrass, and I'm doing my presentation on technology and education. So let's get started. So I want to start, teachers possess unique skills, knowledge, and experience to do the jobs they have. So why should their approaches to classroom technology be any different to their approaches they have in the classroom? People do not realize how much teachers actually utilize technology to instruct our future generations, and people don't realize, how useful it really is. Technology use in classrooms offers students new ways of learning material and offers the teachers a new way to express their knowledge. So, in this presentation, I've decided that I'm going to take more of like a historical trip just to show you all just how technology has advanced over time. So, the introduction of the modern library and the pencil in the mid 1600s marked the beginning of the use of technology in education. Today's students have come to expect the use of technology in the classroom as the norm and know no world without it, unlike, previous generations who barely had any technology at all. However, when you look at how technology has evolved in education and a chronicle of the key stages of development, it paints an interesting picture of how far education has come. So like I said, I want to take you guys on like this tour back in the past to see how technology has evolved over time. So let's start with the 1600s. The first one I would like to show you guys is the slide rule, and it's the top picture. It was created in 1654 by a man named Robert Bizaker, and it was used for mathematics in classrooms. So the second one I'll show you is the horn book at the far right. It was used to teach the alphabet to students, and it was actually made of bull and oxen horn, and educators would use it to teach verses of the Bible and help students learn, the uppercase letters and vowels and whatnot. So the last one for the 1600s I would like to recognize is the magic lantern. The magic lantern was introduced in 1646. It was originally used in homes and theaters. Then it was deployed to the classroom to enhance learning and student engagement. It's pretty much the very first projector. So we're going to jump to the 1800s, starting with slates and chalk. We all know, this basically portable big blackboards, and people would use them instead of pencil and paper. However, they were not seen as convenient because you could not do like longer uh, equations on them. So they eventually, no, we don't see them anymore. The next one is the calculating engine. It's basically the very first calculator. In 1822, Charles Babbage introduced a calculating engine, which led to modern day digital computing. The engine was created with the realization that a computing device must have input, memory, and a central processing unit. So it was really one of the very first computers. The last one in the 1800s I would like to recognize is the typewriter. We all know what a typewriter is. It was introduced in 1873 by a man named Christopher L. Sholes. It debuted what we know as the QWERT QWERTY keyboard that we still use on computers today. And there are different types of typewriters. Like the earlier ones only had uppercase letters, and later versions had uppercase and lowercase. Just a fun fact. So jumping to the 1900s, the first one I'd like to recognize is the film projector. So we all know what a film projector is. It was created in 1925, and it was making its ways into classrooms. The next one is the radio. It was made or introduced in 1925, and it started to be used in education. Some schools used the radio to broadcast lessons to other schools using a specific radio station, and the first lesson was sent over the radio by the Board of Education in New York City in 1925. So, thirdly is the overhead projector. During the 1930s, the first overhead projector was introduced to the classroom prior to being used by the military in World War II, and they viewed it as a more convenient alternative to blackboards. And you can see that in the bottom left. The last one for this century would be the mimeograph. It is basically the first printer. Mimeographs were used by teachers to print classroom materials, and staff of schools would use it to print documents. You can see there's a crank on the side of the machine, and it was used to distribute and literally force the ink to the paper. So let's talk about the technology we use in schools today. We all use calculators. They were first introduced in the 1970s, and you can see in the top left they were very basic. Just think about how the calculators we use today, like the TI-84s, that we have to punch these huge algorithms in, but that can solve pretty much anything. Next is Scantrons on the far right picture. We use Scantrons to take tests all the time in schools. They're still being used today. The interactive whiteboard and smart boards, that's how we've learned in this class or any other class for the past few years. They can do pretty much anything. You can write on so much better than a projector. And then there's also things such as PBS, YouTube, and internet that offer all kinds of resources for us to learn and to experience new knowledge. So with everything, there's problems and benefits. And problems with technology in schools would be, the overuse of technology. People might think that, okay, we don't need this, so why is it here? We're using it too much, becoming reliant on it. They can cause concentration loss. They can be distracting. One problem I thought of would be the constant technological advancements of, the materials we use. These technologies, these devices are constantly changing, and we have to learn to change with it. We have to learn to use these new technologies, and I feel like that's a big problem with these. But I feel the benefits far outweigh the problems with technologies. One benefit is it's new and exciting ways to learn and teach, and it's easier to accommodate all learners. Not everybody learns the same. Some people do better by paper and pencil, and others do better by watching a screen, watching a video, watching somebody physically solve a problem. And so yeah, I believe technology is important for schools. I believe we need it to, especially with how the world is today, we need it to adapt and evolve with how the world is changing. And these are my resources. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.